I'm Greg Grugan, and welcome to What's Your Point, where our panelists call it like they see it. Let's greet them. Starting us off, Bob Price, associate editor of Breitbart, Texas. Next up, Bill King, well-known businessman, columnist, and fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute. In the 3 spot, longtime super neighborhood leader, Tamara Bell. Batting cleanup writer and public policy consultant, Charles Blaine. And closing us out, education and public safety advocate, Paul Castro. Let's begin. In our nation's capital, the acronym SNAFU applies, but being that it's Sunday morning, I'll spare you the actual translation, which most of you know. Status: Democrats digging in their heels and demanding a continuation of Obamacare subsidies granted Americans during the dark days of the pandemic.
And so we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people.
Never mind that you already voted for the very same measure once, Mr. Minority Leader. Like I said, SNAFU. Meantime, even clear-eyed pragmatists and erstwhile peacemakers like Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn are refusing to budge, given our nation's $37 trillion debt.
They've simply overreached. We're happy to talk about any and all issues, including health care and insurance premiums, once the government reopens. But shutting down the government in order to throw a temper tantrum to try to get your way makes no sense, and we ought to be able to do better than that. And I don't know why taxpayers in Texas and across the country should have to subsidize rich people for getting gold-plated health care plans.
Thursday, Senate Republicans offered Democrats the option of easing the pain inflicted on the brave men and women of the armed forces with a separate measure to get them paid. Democrats said no. Discussions on capping the Obamacare subsidies so that only low and moderate income families qualify have also yielded the same result: zilch. Like I said, SNAFU and panel, the American people deserve a whole lot better. Bill, you've been following this, and you've contended that all the polls are showing Americans want the subsidies to continue.
Right. And it's not close. It's 30 or 40 points, and it's Democrats, it's independents, it's Republicans, it's MAGA-identified Republicans. And so what happened when the subsidies were extended, which, by the way, had nothing to do with the pandemic. This was always a Democrat agenda to increase them. And the previous subsidies cut off at about $65,000 for individual and $120,000 for a couple. Okay, this basically doubled the qualification, but it was on a sliding scale, so the more you made, the less you got. And as a result, you added about 5 million people to the subsidies, which, by the way, mostly live in red states. It's mostly older Americans who have not quite reached Medicare yet, and they don't have an alternative. And so when you look at the polling, it's not close. It's 30 and 40 points in favor of extending the ACA subsidies, and it's Democrats, independents, Republicans, MAGA-identified Republicans by 10 points. So this is going to happen sooner or later. It's just a question of, do we do it as part of the shutdown or not?
Charles, what I hear there is folks say lower the deficit, but not on the programs I like or that benefit me. I mean, Bill makes the point that the real politique here is that eventually the Republicans are going to come to the table on this. But it's an example of, subsidized American health care, which we have, moving closer towards universal health care.
I mean, I think some people want it to. I don't know that we're inching that much closer that fast. But what's frustrating for me as a Republican is that we've had this argument for not yet 2 decades, but we're getting close to it. And Republicans don't have an out-of-the-box solution, a free market solution to propose to then try to push that forward. It seems like we keep going back and forth without something that, TPPF has always produced really good information. David Ballard over there, who's not over there anymore, used to focus on this issue. And it's like there are state organizations, there are other people who are focused on this, but at the federal level, it doesn't seem as though we can get anything done and get anything proposed from the Republicans. It's always just like, we don't want to do this, and we're going to lead to something like this. So it's quite frustrating.
Want to get around the horn here. 30 seconds tomorrow.
They got more than 30 seconds, but anyway, look, Bill is correct. And what people get confused on is they think about the Affordable Care Act as the same thing as Medicaid. It is not the same. Medicaid is for poor people who have no insurance. The Affordable Care Act gave many small-time businesses, small farmers, small companies that didn't have enough people to get a group plan, insurance for the first time. And when they got insurance, what it did help is from they get serious illnesses that would have been prolonged because they were able to go to the doctor to get preventive care. And I agree with what Charles said as well. Since you don't have a solution, leave the damn thing alone. You tried this in 2016. I know you didn't, baby, because I know how to say it. Between 2016 and 2020, they kept saying, let's do it, and it kept failing because you have nothing to fall back on.
30 seconds.
We wouldn't be here if Congress would do its job and write a budget. That's its #1 job. It hadn't done it in God knows how many years. Get it done and do that, and so we don't keep doing this. Democrats voted 13 times for these continuing resolutions, chastised Republicans when they threatened to shut down the government, and yet here we have this hypocrisy going on today. Stop it. Go to work.
All right, Paul. Bob makes a good point. They voted for this. It seemed to be okay then, and then the marching orders came down to die on that hill.
Yeah, so first of all, any viewer that wants to know more about this should read Bill King's blog. It's
Absolutely.
beautifully written and it has a ton of detail. Secondly, it's hard to claim poverty when we're bailing out Argentina to the tune of $20 to $40 billion over nothing. President Trump admitted, it's like, that's not going to have any real benefit, except it's going to benefit his friends, and it's all contingent upon them electing his buddy. So if we're going to say, oh, we don't have money for this to benefit, Americans that are paying taxes, but we do have money for this, it's a little bit hypocritical.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to you real quick. What do you think of John Cornyn turning it around and calling it a gold-plated benefit?
It's going to hurt him because his constituents, people that would normally vote for him, are the people that are getting these subsidies. By the way, it's $40 billion a year. It's about a 2% increase in the deficit. Now, there's a bunch of other things that Democrats have asked for, which are nonsense, in my opinion, and I wouldn't give up on. But I'm telling you, if the ultimate deal maker, Trump, can make a deal. Here you go in, let's extend that, open up the government. I think that's what will ultimately happen here.
Yeah, the cost of one B-2 bomber, I think. I don't know. Still to come, more of your Harris County tax dollars being spent to represent undocumented immigrants facing deportation. But up next, a genuine triumph for President Trump, and Israeli hostages are finally tasting sweet freedom.